In the quiet village of Umuaka, where life moved slowly and everyone knew each other, lived a man called Okiki. Okiki was known in the village for two things: his confidence and his lack of understanding of modern technology. Okiki had lived all his life in the village. He believed the radio was the greatest invention ever made. To him, television was already too advanced, but smartphones were magic. One sunny afternoon, Okek's son, Chinedu, returned from Lagos. He came with stylish clothes and city confidence. He brought a brand new smartphone. The villagers gathered around him, amazed by the shining screen. Chinedu proudly showed them videos, pictures, and music from the phone. The villagers gasped in surprise. Okiki watched carefully, nodding his head like he understood everything, but deep down, he was confused. Later that evening, Chinedu handed the smartphone to his father. "Papa, this is for you," he said. Okek's eyes widened. He held the phone carefully, like it was something very expensive. "This small thing can do all that?" Okiki asked. Chinedu smiled and replied, "Yes, Papa. You can watch videos and make calls, and you can even browse the internet." Okiki nodded slowly, even though he did not fully understand what browsing meant. The next morning, Okiki woke up very early. He picked up his new smartphone and looked at it carefully. He remembered how everyone in the village admired his son when he used the phone. Okiki smiled to himself and said, "Today, I will also use this phone like a city man." Okiki pressed the phone and the screen suddenly lit up. His eyes widened with excitement. He touched the screen again and different apps appeared. Okiki was amazed. "This small thing has many things inside," he said proudly. Suddenly, Okiki mistakenly pressed the microphone button. The phone spoke. "How can I help you?" Okiki jumped back in fear. He looked around the room, confused. "Who was talking?" he asked quietly. The phone repeated, "How can I help you?" Okiki slowly moved closer to the phone. "Are you inside this phone?" he asked cautiously. The phone remained silent. Okiki scratched his head and whispered, "This phone even has a human inside." Okiki gathered courage and spoke into the phone. "Please, give me food." The phone responded by opening food delivery apps. Okiki stared at the screen, confused. "I can bring food too?" he asked excitedly. Okiki pressed another button and a video started playing. He saw people dancing and singing. Okiki smiled happily. "So this phone also has television inside," he said proudly. Excited, Okiki rushed outside to show his neighbors. He raised the phone high and called everyone. "Come and see, my phone has television inside." The villagers gathered around again, amazed by the small screen. Okiki mistakenly opened the front camera. Suddenly, his face appeared on the screen. Okiki jumped back in shock. "Who is this man inside my phone?" he asked loudly. Mama and Ngozi laughed again and said, "Okiki, that is your face." Okiki moved closer and stared carefully. He smiled slowly and said, "So this phone also has mirror inside?" Okiki nodded proudly and looked at everyone. "This phone is very powerful. Soon I will understand everything inside it," he said confidently. Just then, the phone battery suddenly became low. The phone switched off. Okiki tapped it several times and said, "Why is the man inside sleeping again?" The villagers laughed loudly. In the quiet village of Umuaka, Okiki continued his journey of learning technology, one funny mistake at a time. Learning something new may look difficult at first, but every mistake brings laughter, and every laughter brings learning.
Obodo, I was a quiet village where everyone enjoyed peace, until Emeka returned from the city with loudspeakers and became the village DJ. That night, music blasted across the village. The youths danced with excitement, but the elders couldn't sleep. Mama Ngozi's baby cried all night. By morning, complaints filled the village. Chief Okafor called a meeting. Emeka said he only wanted to bring fun. They agreed music only on weekends, lower volume, and early closing. Peace returned, but not for long. Emeka's speakers broke, and another DJ, Chuka, took over. Soon, a rivalry began. The youths chose sides, and the village started to divide again. Chief Okafor stepped in. Music should unite, not divide. He told them to work together. Emeka and Chuka joined forces and performed at the village festival. This time, everyone danced in peace and joy. Fun is good, but respect and teamwork bring true harmony.
In the busy city of Lagos lived a wealthy young man named Daniel Okafor. Daniel owned many companies, expensive cars, and a beautiful mansion. People admired him everywhere he went, but despite all his wealth, Daniel was deeply lonely. Every night, he sat alone in his large living room, surrounded by luxury, yet feeling empty inside. Daniel had met many women before, but something always felt wrong. Whenever they discovered he was wealthy, their behavior changed. They became overly sweet, overly caring, and overly interested. Daniel began to doubt every smile and every promise. One evening, Daniel overheard a woman he was dating talking to her friend. She said she could not wait to marry Daniel so she could enjoy his wealth. Those words broke Daniel's heart. That night, he ended the relationship and realized he needed a different approach to find true love. Daniel sat quietly in his study and thought deeply. Suddenly, an idea came to him. He decided to disguise himself as a poor man. He would hide his wealth and meet someone who would love him without knowing who he really was. The next morning, Daniel wore old clothes, simple slippers, and removed all signs of wealth. Looking at himself in the mirror, Daniel barely recognized himself. For the first time in years, he looked like an ordinary struggling man. Daniel rented a small room in a quiet neighborhood. The room was simple and small, nothing like his mansion. Daniel walked through the streets, observing people. Some ignored him, some looked down on him. For the first time, Daniel experienced how differently people treated the poor. One afternoon, Daniel sat near a small roadside food stall. A young woman named Grace noticed him. She saw he looked tired and quietly offered him a plate of food. Daniel was surprised. No one had shown him kindness like that before. They began talking. Grace spoke gently and kindly. She did not ask about money or status. Instead, she asked about his dreams and hopes. Days passed, and Daniel kept visiting the food stall. He and Grace became close friends. They shared stories and laughed together. Grace worked hard every day to support her younger siblings. Despite her struggles, she remained kind and cheerful. One day, Daniel told Grace he had not eaten all day. Without hesitation, Grace shared her own food with him. Daniel's heart softened. He realized her kindness was genuine. Slowly, Daniel began to fall in love with Grace. Daniel struggled with whether to tell Grace the truth. He feared losing her, but he also knew honesty was important. One day, Daniel invited Grace to meet him at a special place the next day. When Grace arrived, she saw a luxury car and a well-dressed man. It was Daniel. She stood in shock. Daniel explained everything: his wealth, his disguise, and his search for true love. Grace was surprised but calm. She told Daniel she cared about him for his kindness, not his money. Daniel felt relief. He had finally found someone who loved him sincerely. Months later, Daniel and Grace got married. True love is not built on wealth or status. True love is built on kindness, honesty, and a genuine heart.